are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Podium tomorrow at SEC Media Days in Atlanta. What should be the messaging from the Tigers head football coach? My guy Ike Jones is here with me. We'll discuss it on this edition of the Up-Tempo Podcast. Let's go. What's up to my Auburn family? What's up to the Up-Tempo gang? I'm your host, Dustin Smith, joined by a face y'all know, my guy Ike Jones, live from Atlanta, Georgia, SEC Media Days 2025. It's been fun, Ike. I've enjoyed hanging out with you today. We heard Commissioner Greg Sankey take to the podium earlier, but I want to talk real quick before we get into Auburn football, what we want to hear from Hugh Freeze tomorrow, something that kind of fits into this narrative of Auburn football of these last couple of weeks. Everyone's been talking about the recruiting struggles. John Cohen and Hugh Freeze did the ambush event at Lake Martin a couple of weeks ago. They kind of tried to explain what was going on with the house settlement and the NIL. I think my takeaway from the day, Ike, is that nobody seems to think that these rules are going to be applied, that there's any kind of way that the NCAA, this new NIL clearinghouse, they're going to be able to enforce these rules. And Lane Kiffin, specifically, the Ole Miss head coach, he said supposed NIL rules. He called it a supposed salary cap. So I thought that was pretty interesting because Auburn's athletic director and John Cohen and Hugh Freeze, they're not using supposed. They're saying these are going to be the rules. So just kind of what did you take of all that, and what should be the messaging tomorrow from Hugh Freeze? Kind of given that today, it seems like no one thinks that those things are actually going to be enforceable.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I get from it is that maybe John Cohen and his team are onto something. Like maybe there is enough uncertainty where they're like, well, let's just hold our horses and see what we've got here, and we might actually be right at the end of all of this stuff. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how this shakes out because, like you said, Lane Kiffin even hinted at it. Like he's like, I don't think some of this stuff is going to hold past the muster. So if it doesn't, then, they don't, Coach Freeze and his staff don't have as much room to make up as people might think that they possibly have.
Absolutely. But we'll see how all that goes. I want to talk some football, though. We're at SEC Media Days for the football season, and there's not a lot of football talk, guys. It's driving me crazy. I think the big thing that stood out to me was you kind of knew that they were going to bring Jackson Arnold and QB, but you got two guys on the line of scrimmage, one on each side, Keldrick Faulk, Connor Lew. If both of these guys stay healthy and have the season that we think that they're going to have, they could be high picks in next year's NFL draft. What does it say about just the maturation on the line of scrimmage under Hugh Freeze coming into his third year, that now here we sit about a month out from the season, and there is a guy on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage and the defensive side of the line of scrimmage that are projected to go high in the NFL draft?
I mean, for me, it shows that he came in with the right kind of plan about what he wanted to prioritize, right? Like it's great to have, the wide receiver room, amazing. I'm not knocking those guys at all. Those are top-notch wide receivers, but you got to have the line. You got to have the line. If you don't have the guys up front, then who cares? Got
to have time to throw the ball.
Yeah, great wide receivers don't matter if the quarterback's on his back for 80% of the game. And so that helps for the offensive line. But then when you look at the opposite side, got a little video bomb right there. When you look at the opposite side, you got to do the exact same thing on the other side. You got to figure out a way to stop guys from running the football in this league. You got to find a way to put pressure on the quarterback. Keldrick Faulk is able to provide that in both of those areas for Auburn. So looking forward to seeing how that matures. And it's been a while, man. Since we had Derek Brown up front, there hasn't been a guy on that defensive side. Hell, I don't even want to talk about the offense.
I was about to say, how long back would we have to go? Braden? Go back to Braden being drafted by the Colts, maybe?
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you're glad that finally it seems as if Auburn's gotten some momentum. And there's been guys that have been drafted on the defensive line, but we're talking about top of the first round type of talent. It's been a while, so it's good to see that momentum start to push its way back there.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to it. When you look at Keldrick Faulk last year, 9 sacks, he comes up one short of double digits. I know that you have high expectations for Keldrick this year. I'm going to hit you a little over-under. 12 and a half.
On sacks?
Sacks. He had 9.
Yeah.
Can he get 3.5 more?
I think a lot of that depends on how the other guys on the opposite side from him perform in that buck position, and then the interior offensive line, how well they're doing at stopping the run to put Keldrick Falk in more pass rushing situations. I tend to think I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
I do think he's going to get to double digits this season. I just think they're going to be paying he has climbed the scouting report so much for folks that I think that they're going to do everything they can to roll the pocket away from him. They're going to be trying to play quick game, try to get the ball out quickly. They're going to double team him, try to chip with a running back tight. I think that's what Keldrick's going to see on a consistent basis this year. If he sees that level of attention and still able to get to double-digit sacks, I think that's a phenomenal season because it shows the level of attention that people are paying to him, and he can still be productive in that level of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at K'Ron Crawford and saying, all right, young man, it's your time to
listen. Somebody else has got to step up and make it happen. Like K'Ron Crawford's another guy who's in a season where if he does well enough, he could make the jump to the NFL. We call that a money year. This is a money year for K'Ron Crawford, man. So he can go out there and he can prove why he can be an elite pass rusher because he will have – I am certain K'Ron Crawford sees more double teams. J-Mac, in my opinion, was a guy who was high on the scouting report in obvious passing situations.
Yeah.
Can K'Ron Crawford be a guy who's going to be high on the scouting report? Keldrick Falk will be. Is there somebody else on that line who will be as well?
Absolutely. I want to talk about Connor Lew for a second. I know that the center position is not the sexiest, but anybody that listens to the Uptempo podcast knows the emphasis that I put on the O-line. Our members know just how fired up I get to do an offensive lineman's film breakdown whenever we get a commitment from one. So Connor Lew might be my favorite Tiger on this year's roster. And when we look at these tackles that we're bringing in, Mason Murphy, Xavier Chaplin, you're looking at Jeremiah Wright. Okay, can you stay healthy? There's a lot of optimism. Dylan Wade returning for another year. Xavier Miller, you started looking, you're saying, I got depth.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, Auburn is too deep. What does a guy like DeAndre Carter step up and do? So just kind of speak on the importance of Connor Lew being the center, being the anchor of that offensive line. He's going to take to the podium tomorrow. He's kind of coming out as the face of the program. You've got new faces, but you're expecting big things from some of the new faces. Xavier Chaplin paid a, I'm guessing you paid a nice little fee to get the top left tackle in the portal, right? Like those don't come cheap. Every team wants one of those. So he's going to be a key piece to Auburn's success this year. Just kind of how important it is. I know you do a lot of film breakdowns for the center to get those guys lined up, get the ability for them to learn the system and kind of set the tone for Auburn on that offensive line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why to me, Connor Lew is the most important piece of this offensive line because not just talent, yes, that jumps off of the page, but that's the only position where, for me, there is a level of uncertainty about what's behind it, right? Like, who's the backup center for Auburn this year? If Connor Lew isn't there, then where does Auburn turn to? It feels like that's going to be a true freshman, right?
Yeah, and a true freshman that skipped his senior year in high school. So Ellis is young.
So, for me, it's so important for him to be healthy from that standpoint. But then just the experience of being a guy in this league and being the linchpin, like literally the center of the offensive line, who's calling out the stuff and who's able to get people in the right situation. And from a leadership standpoint, he needs to be a guy who has a voice there. I think it's absolutely crucial for him to remain healthy and for him to have a good season in order for that offensive line that's got a lot of talent around him, right? But it all falls apart if your center's crap, right? Like it just doesn't fit the way that it needs to. And again, the uncertainty at the two deep right there for the center is where it puts that urgency for me for Connor Lew to be good and healthy for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I hear you. I think it's why Braden Joyner may have been the biggest portal loss for Auburn.
100% he was the biggest loss in the portal for that reason alone. Because Braden Joyner would have been your de facto. And then the other guy who had any experience at center, Tate Johnson, he moved over to being a tight end, right? So he's not even taking reps right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's just like I don't even know where you go after Connor Lew there. So he's super important.
Yeah, you might have to move one of those guards around if something happens. Wade, right? I mean, hopefully we don't have to figure all that out. And like you said, Connor stays healthy. Let's wrap this one up by talking about the quarterback, Jackson Arnold. We look at all the weapons, and I haven't seen an Auburn team this loaded at the wide receiver position since I've been a fan
ever. I mean, you could maybe go back to the Aroma Shadu, years.
I feel like they were deep, but like when you look at ceiling with a guy like Cam Coleman,
absolutely, the talent ceiling is higher. Really, the talent floor is higher with this group, right? Like, so it's an overall, like, you had a lot of guys who were reliable in that group back then, but Yeah, I mean, I think you could really go 1 through 6 in this group, and I'd take from a talent perspective, I'd take all of those guys over. And no disrespect, and somebody in your comment section right now is going crazy. This dude Ike Jones, I know what he's talking about. You don't remember how good? You're like, listen, bro, no disrespect.
Anthony Mix, Courtney Taylor.
No disrespect to those dudes. I think they super. I think those guys would tell you Cam Coleman's different.
Yeah.
I think those guys would tell you the speed that Eric Singleton has is different, right? Like, it's not just they're good. And again, just talking from a talent, not productivity, not what they have done on the field, none of that stuff. Talent-wise, best group Auburn's ever had.
Yeah.
Best.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jackson Arnold's got all the weapons. He's got all the tools. We spoke on the offensive line. Say all those things come together. Like, what should be reasonable expectations for this former 5-star Gatorade National Player of the Year? It's all around him.
Yeah.
It's kind of up to him and Hugh Freeze to connect and make it work, right?
Yeah, I mean, expectations wise, if it's sub 3,000 this year, I like just both start firing people on this offensive staff, man. Like, I don't know what you got to do, but there's just not a legitimate reason that even if let's just say the running game's not good, right? Which means you should throw the ball more, right? Like, even if he doesn't have balance and teams are like, all right, well, they can't run the ball, cool, we'll just play there's just not a scenario, because let's just play it out and say the run game's trash. Like, they can't get 3 yards and they're like, all right, cool, we're just going to throw the ball more. You still have to deal with the fact that you've got more than one receiver to contend with on the outside. So even if you say, all right, we're just going to blitz a bunch and we're going to sit on all the short stuff and you can't play quick game, you got guys who across the board are running 4 sub 5s. I mean, 4 sub 4.45s.
They're
right?
fast.
Yeah.
They're fast.
And so, like, even if we're not playing quick game, we can, all right, we'll just box it out on the outside. We'll put our big receivers out there and we'll play jump ball and make sure you've got enough availability out there where you still have to make defensive coordinators think about how you're going to, you can go play Mike Leach ball. All right, cool. We'll just spread it out and we'll throw it all around the yard on you. There's no reason why Jackson Arnold can't be above 3,000 yard passer this season. If he does, man, again, like, just throw the offensive staff away and figure it out somewhere else.
So you've watched all the snaps from last year at this point, probably multiple times. I know you've watched all of Jackson Arnold's snaps at Oklahoma and done film breakdowns on all of those.
I think I got about 3 games of film breakdowns on him, and I have definitely watched all of his games from last year. Yeah.
So with that in mind, let's talk about the red zone rows.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be something that Jackson Arnold could be a step up for Peyton Thorne? Or are you looking at the guy calling the plays and saying, you got to call better plays in the red zone?
I think the red zone comes down to scheming a lot more, just because there's a lot less real estate for it to be about, we've got fast guys, we've got big guys. It's more about how are you able to out leverage and how are you able to get that freaking middle linebacker to move a gap over from where he's supposed to be, or how do you isolate your running back on a wheel or tight end on freaking, whatever, like, or are we just going to go and play again? We got big boys on the outside. Are we just going to throw you? I have not seen since year 1, it feels like, Brian Harsin, which is crazy, in that red zone situation versus Cal, where they threw the fade route to Valdo. Auburn just decide our guy's better than your guy in one-on-one. We're going to ISO him out here and see who's going to win. Like, I haven't seen it since then. Like, and I don't understand it, because you got enough guys that could do that.
You know what's funny is I think back to that game, that post-game press conference, Hugh said,
I said Brian Harsin, excuse me. I gave Brian Harsin credit for that. Year 1 under Hugh Freeze.
It was Hugh Freeze's first year. That 10 p.m. start that was so brutal for everybody. It was funny, though, after the game, he said, I called 3 plays in this game, and one of those was that one. So more of that, Hugh Freeze. More of that.
Run it back. Like 20 times this year.
More of that down there in the red zone. When you look at you having a guy like Jeremiah Cobb out there, you mentioned sending him out on a wheel route out of the backfield, big targets in Horatio, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton. It's all there to make it happen in the red zone. Jackson Arnold, Peyton can move a little bit with his legs, but Jackson is a different type of athlete. So get down there in the 5-yard line, nothing's open. Use your feet, baby. Get into that end zone. So there's a tons of options for Hugh Freeze in this offense this year to put it in the end zone and get 6. No excuse. You got your field goal kicker back and healthy, a guy that you trust, and that has to affect the play calling, right? I think back to that Iron Bowl, to where I think I kind of give you a little bit of a pass, not on the halfback pass. I'm not. That one was uncalled for.
Yeah.
But some of that red zone play calling there, he was playing like we're going for it on fourth. This
Right.
is, we got 2 more downs here because I don't trust the kicker. So hopefully a healthy Alex McPherson this year will kind of improve some of that play calling down there as well. All right, thank you for joining me. Follow us right here on the Up Tempo podcast. Follow Ike over at the War Report. We are pumping out tons of content from Atlanta, Georgia, SEC Media Days all week. I love you. I appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next one tomorrow. War Damn Eagle.